Hei, mitt navn Farida Shakuna Bagala, og jeg grunnlegger av Abloom.
Jeg heter Zainab Alsabek, og jeg har en storesøster som heter Fatima, med funksjonshemming.
Jeg heter Maja, jeg er 11 år. Jeg har en storebror og en liten søster.
Jeg elsker å dra på kino.
Jeg ses på Abloom-festival. Vi ses på Abloom-festival.
Hello everyone, hei alle sammen. Nå vi på den 11. årlige internasjonale konferansen til Abloom. Hello everyone, we are now at the 11th annual Abloom International Festival, and with me I have Ambassador Kent from the Embassy of Canada. Thank you for coming.
Pleased to be here. Thank you very much for making Canada a part of the festival this year.
Can I ask you, why did you go into this collaboration this year, and also a little bit about yourself and the role that you have?
Great. So I've been here now in Norway as Canada's ambassador for 1 year, and it's been an incredible opportunity and honor to represent Canada, and a large part of what we do or are able to do in terms of looking at Canada and Norway is through arts and culture. And so it was a natural opportunity to partner with Abloom, given your focus on diversity and disability and culture. And these are Canadian priorities, these are Canadian values.
And this year's topic is also having a little bit of a different perspective in terms of families and relatives. And I was curious to think of how long has this process taken to collaborate?
So in fact, the first introduction that we had with Abloom was back in 2019. And we were already impressed by what was coming together and the commitment of the organizers and the volunteers to make it happen. And so really honored that now in 2022, after COVID, back live in person, that we can, partner and showcase Canadian film.
Are you looking forward to seeing the film?
Absolutely. I think what our National Film Board is able to do in bringing diverse voices to film and culture is very special. I'm very proud of it. So yeah, looking forward to hearing the audience reaction as well.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Kent.
My pleasure. Really looking forward to tonight. Thank you.
Tusen takk alle sammen. Da ses vi om ikke så alt for lenge. Og i mellomtiden så skal vi få møte Oda, som frivillig og har internship her. Thank you so much, Ambassador. I'll see you later.
Tusen takk.
I menighetene, preke en diskusjon og så videre. Dele erfaringer fra arbeidet med Abloom. Jobbe videre med trossamfunnet i oppfølging av innholdet i erklæringen og skape en reell adferdsendring. Delta på Abloom Filmfestival i 2021.
Fortell meg litt om hvordan du endte opp her på Abloom.
Ja, jeg endte opp her på Abloom via skolen og lærerne mine på grunn av at jeg visste ikke om Abloom først, fordi jeg skulle se etter utplasseringsmuligheter innen praksisen min, og da var det sånn at jeg fikk en liste over organisasjoner som lette etter der de manglet utplasseringer, og så etter hvert så bare søkte jeg, og så fikk jeg en ringemelding, eller hun ringte meg når jeg satt på bussen til vei til Bergen. Og da var det sånn at hun spurte om jeg kunne komme på intervju på dagen etter, men da kunne jeg jo ikke, for jeg satt jo på vei til Bergen på leir. Og da ble jeg på intervju på mandagen, uka etter høstferien. Og da var det sånn at jeg jobbet onsdagen samme uken.
Fantastisk! Og nå du frivillig her og har et form for, hva heter det igjen? Det internship? Opplæring?
Ja, utplassering som jeg har et helt år, og så etter det det lærling i 2 år. Og i år, i denne internasjonale fagkonferansen, har jeg media som jeg har hovedansvaret for.
Og kunne jeg da få spørre, hva det du liker best med Abloom?
Det jeg liker mest med Abloom samholdet, det hvordan menneskene her. de bryr seg om hvordan jeg har det, og andre med funksjonsnedsettelse har det. At de vil ta ned tabuene fra dette, og ikke bli straffet for at man har blitt født annerledes. At ikke genene og sånn skal ha noe å si, eller at det har vært en feil før du ble født.
Tusen hjertelig takk, Oda, for dine perspektiver og for resten av dagen som kommer. Vi ses om ikke så alt for lenge. Takk for meg.
Hei, mitt navn Farida Bagala, og jeg grunnlegger av Abloom.
Jeg heter Zainab Alsabek, og jeg har en storesøster som heter Fatima, med funksjonshemming.
Jeg heter Maja, jeg er 11 år. Jeg har en storebror og en liten søster.
Jeg elsker å dra på kino.
Vi ses på Abloom-festivalen.
Hei du! Snart er det Awareness Week for oss med funksjonsnedsettelser. Visste du det? Det er i uke 47. Awareness Week betyr bevissthetsuke på norsk. Som vil si at det er en uke hvor vi går sammen for å gi ekstra oppmerksomhet til noe vi mener er viktig å sette fokus på. Og jeg, Abloom, har selvfølgelig valgt å gi den ekstra oppmerksomheten til det jeg brenner mest for, som er at barn og unge med funksjonsnedsettelser skal bli verdsatt, sett og hørt. Jeg tenker at absolutt alle barn og unge skal ha like mye respekt, kjærlighet og støtte, uansett hvem de er. At alle skal få være med på film, lek, idrett, skole og andre ting som skjer i verden. Det er nettopp derfor jeg vil at vi sammen skal feire Awareness Week, slik at disse barna skal bli verdsatt, sett og hørt. Awareness Week skjer jo samtidig som Abloom Filmfestivalen, og da tenkte jeg vi kunne gjøre noe ekstra spennende i år. Så i år skal vi ha en jury bestående av 4 barn med funksjonsnedsettelser som skal velge ut årets beste animasjonsfilm under Abloom Filmfestival 2022. Yay! Ja! Og på Saga Kino under Barnas dag 25. november avslører vi vinnerfilmen som barnejuryen forsiktig har valgt ut. Vinneren får en helt spesiell pris, nemlig Abloom-prisen! Alle som kan, er hjertelig velkommen til å ta på seg noe blått. Det er fargen vi har valgt for å skape ekstra bevissthet rundt barn og unge med funksjonsnedsettelser. Vi ses i november! Det blir fest og moro, og mye flott å lære. Abloom filmfestival inviterer til en fantastisk fest. Mye moro og gode kulturopplevelser for alle.
Hello, everyone. Dear Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 11th Annual International Film Festival of Abloom! For 11 years, Abloom has aimed to highlight the importance of representation on screen and off screen. And most importantly, to shatter stigma and taboos related to disabilities, especially for children and young people here in Norway that also have a multicultural background. To watch a movie opens a door, a new narrative. Sometimes this may remind you of yourself. Other times this may remind you of somebody else that you know. And then sometimes it may completely open a different world to anything that you've seen or witnessed or know yourself. This year, the theme has the headline, Trauma. Who cares? With relatives in focus, a sibling's perspective. And this is what we are going to dive into today. We would like to start by thanking the Embassy of Canada, who is this year's collaborator, as well as the International Norwegian Film Institute, Budfir, and Oslo Municipality. So how did we get here? It is only right to introduce the woman, I would like to say the powerhouse, if not the mother of this festival, Farida. Please take your floor.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, our precious partner and all partners around here. We are so grateful to have you here. For us, it means a lot. By you joining this campaign, as a mother to a child who is disabled, I am touched by heart. So I would like to send you an applause, and also I would like us to give an applause to all of us, to each other. Thank you so much. Abloom, we have survived 11 years. Even during COVID, we were very active. We have been hybrid since then. And of course, we have survived storms. But our job is to create awareness. As a founder of Abloom, I discovered that very early. That is when I became a mother. That was 2005. I looked around and asked myself, where is everybody? Can't be me alone in this country, in this city. There must be people around there. But where are they? Well, as bold as I am, I went ahead and decided to create a meeting place. And this meeting place was going to be different. As a filmmaker, I decided we were going to use film as a tool to address awareness, taboos, and everything that is usually connected to the disabled people, both in Norway, among minority groups, but also around the world. My son came into my life as a blessing. Some people might look at their children or other people's children as some kind of divine punishment. Oh no. You see, I'm a very active woman. I was very active then too. But I was fighting for the youngsters who were not disabled. So once my son came into the picture, I decided to change my course. This time, it was not about me, because I saw that my son, he was in a kind of way I got a message from God, me who believes and those who believe in God, so no should know that better. I saw it was a message that I should wake up, and this was not about him and me. It was about all the children out there. Where are they? I did not see them out in the street. As long as I lived with him, no one ever talked to me. And sooner or later, I discovered there were so many parents out there who had the same problem. So, as bold as I am, I said, the film festival came in place in 2012. And since then, we have been here. And we are so grateful to be here because we have lifted people's spirits and hearts and gave them hope. Dealing with taboos is one of the most difficult things you will ever see and do with. Because everybody knows that the taboos are there, but they don't want to do anything about them. And that's the saddest thing. Everybody knows. So, again, I was bold again. I thought, these taboos need to be broken. And we started as a one-day festival. Today we are running a 6 days festival, and we have gathered children, youngsters, old, young, diplomats. Who haven't we touched? Even politicians. We have really reached everybody. But that doesn't mean we are done. That's only a start. And here we are. We are here to address, to create awareness, and connect to more partners, create relationship, so that people out there can actually benefit from our gathering. So everybody here today should know that your presence is giving a voice to someone who is not able to give her or his or their voice. You are their voice. And the movies we're going to watch today will be one of the testimonies that we have to address. I'm not going to use a lot of time because we have so much to do here, but I would like to thank you and my crew from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you so much for supporting us and for supporting the group, because there are many people here who need our voices. They don't have any voices, and we are their voices. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. To the main partner, international partner, the Embassy of Canada, please welcome Her Excellency Ambassador Kent.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Good evening for those of you in person, and I know we have a lot of people watching online as well. Frida, thank you very much for your remarks. Congratulations to you, the volunteers, and the other partners. Really coming back after COVID, resurrecting in person this very important festival. You put it so well in terms of the importance of bringing voice to those who may not have a voice and amplifying the issues and bringing those issues to the forefront. For Canada, we are a country of diversity. We see diversity as our strength. We have a quarter and a third of our population was born outside Canada, including myself. And that brings a degree of diversity to the way our country works. 22% of the adults in Canada have self-identified as having a diversity. They're a critical part of our population and of our communities. And we're going to see the film now. We're really pleased to be featuring Canadian film in this year's festival to showcase how arts and culture can come together, like through your film festival. And diversity and inclusion is a part of what Canada sees as our strength and what we promote abroad. We recognize that bringing different voices and different perspectives is what will help us cure our national challenges, will help us as the global community come together to solve the issues that are most challenging, whether it's climate change, whether it's conflict, also human rights. We need those voices to come forward. It really is a strength for democracy. Yet, exclusion, discrimination remains pervasive, where there may be intolerance. And so we work through our feminist foreign policy, through our feminist international assistance policy to help globally to address these challenges so that all of our communities can take advantage and include the innovation, the creativity, the dynamism of everybody, including those who are disabled and see themselves differently. And you mentioned that families are part of this year's conversation. And we are all part of families, and within families we're diverse, and within communities and within our countries, and these marginalized communities need voice. And that's where a film festival such as this can help bring those different perspectives, as was said, in order for us to see ourselves differently, those around us, and then shed light on those challenges. So I really look forward to the panel discussion later on the questions of film and diversity. The films that we're going to see are going to challenge us, I'm sure, and bring to light and inspire us as we look ahead to what role we can play. So thank you all for coming this evening, being part of this important festival, and supporting the incredible work of Abloom. Thank you very much. Tusen takk.
Thank you, Ambassador. And as was mentioned, we will most definitely explore Canadian film. And before any further ado, the first film that is going to be screened is Private Eyes by Nicola Lime. This is a 3D stereoscopic animation that tells the story of a little boy named Matthew. Matthew has never been afraid of the dark. And I will stop there because you will see more of his story just now. I just wanted to see it and get my first impressions, and it was a surprise because I didn't see the meaning of it straight away in terms of I have eyes in my nose. What does that mean, really? And that's some of the things that we're going to deep dive into. So now we are online. For those of you watching at home, I thought it would only be right that I also introduce myself here. I did it online earlier today. My name is Amal Ahmed Haj Mohammed. I work at an innovation and cultural house in Oslo called Sentralen. There I work as a producer, and I'm also responsible for the diversity, inclusion, and equity work. Otherwise, when I'm not at work, you would find me on the streets. I do a lot of activism, especially in terms of anti-discrimination and racial discrimination for a youth organization named Solidarity Youth, which is connected to the labor unions in Norway. Now, are you guys excited for the conversation? Yes. I'm going to introduce one by one, and then you can please take your seats. I will start with Esther Voyola, who is the festival coordinator, please. Hilde Koss, who works at Mediafabrikken, the media factory at Viken Municipality, please. Henrik Sisa, lecturer, professor, philosopher, and author. And Julia Ove, who works at the Norwegian Film Institute. And also on screen, you will see Pantalui from the Olympia Festival. And that is everyone. I thought we could start with a somehow introduction of what you guys do. So I thought we could start with Pantalis. If you could say a little bit about yourself and the work that you do and where you are right now.
Yes, I'm in Athens, Greece. I'm working for Olympia International Film Festival for children and young people. We're organizing a festival that's meant for children and youth since 25 years now. Actually, we're having our 25th edition in the beginning of December in a few days. And I'm very happy to be with you, and thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you. And then I will go to Julia.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, you introduced me, so I'll just say that I work as director for a department in the Norwegian Film Institute called Film Culture and Society. We work with the support schemes, basically in different schemes. Mainly festivals. That's basically the biggest support scheme we have, as well as distribution and other forms of conveying films in Norway. The Norwegian Film Institute has, of course, the responsibility for supporting film production and these kind of things, but mainly in my department, we focus on how international films are conveyed in Norway. We also run the Cinematheque. We have support schemes for Norwegian Film Club Association and also for the Cinematheques regionally in Norway.
Hi there, I'm Henrik. I'm a philosopher, but otherwise I'm pretty okay. Hi there, it's great to be here. I work on issues of war and peace, and especially on how we create the preconditions for living in a peaceful society. I'm also a big fan of Frida. We are on a committee together that looks at the challenges of the disabled in Norway, and I think that we live in a country here where we often think that we're so good at everything. And you as diplomats, of course, from Canada, South Africa, will say nice things to us. But there are a lot of things that we need to think more about, not least when it comes to the inclusion of those who have disabilities. Then the final thing I'll say is I like films, but I'm not like you, a professional.
I'm Hilde. I'm the leader of a talent resource center in the Viken, what do you call it? County Council, yes, yes. And we work with young filmmakers, and of course we have all the I will come back to it. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. And yes, you are working with us also, cooperating. We had a workshop we arranged together, and we are very happy for that. The This workshop was for children, and they made film about friendship. And this was the first time they made a film, so thank to you. And I also would like to thank everybody. I'm Esther, by the way, and coordinator of the festival and responsible for programming. And this short film, this Canadian film, was one of the films I have selected, and also the next film what will follow. So I'm the one who is looking for films all year round to pick the right ones. And this diversity issue was very interesting because last year we asked all the embassies that could you help us find some organizations that deal with disability in your countries. And thank you very much. Many of you have sent very good contact information to us, so that, for example, the Canadian embassy sent us also titles of film festivals, disability film festivals, because in some countries there are film festivals, like in Norway, that really deal with such issues. And we are really thankful for that. And also, I have to mention this, it was very important that the Canadian Film Board has a database that was disability in film. So I wonder if the Norwegian Film Institute has such thematic database, because I haven't found. I was really looking hard. What do you think?
Thank you. Since you've been looking hard and didn't find it, I think that's the best way of saying no. We don't have such a database. I actually did the research myself to just to see what kind of database would that be. So I Googled actually disability in film, and then there were some databases coming up that showed titles and different kinds of disability. So it's an interesting database to have, and it's probably useful. We can consider it, but it's not something we do have now. We have what we called film study sheets, which apply a lot of information about different kinds of films and new films, especially new Norwegian films coming out. And they have a lot of search criteria in different ways. And of course, health issues could be some of the words that you search for, and also minority themes and these kinds of things, but not that kind of database that we ask for, no.
And I was wondering, Esther, if I can ask you, because you have been one of those that pick out the films for the film festival, why did you choose Private Eyes? What struck you?
Well, we'll just pass this around, won't we?
Okay, thank you. That was because from a teacher's point of view, for example, of course, this diversity conversation you have to begin in the kindergarten, I think. In my opinion, the smaller the child, the better it is to tell that we are all a little bit different, but we are all alike. That's the idea. And film is a very good tool to tell people what you want, because pictures tell, and a film is the best tool in this way. So I thought that in this film, children can play blindfold, for example. It's a good thing to feel that you can't see. So how is it when you can't see? But here Matthew is telling all the time how it is when you can't see, but you can feel. You can feel a lot of things. You can smell, you can touch, but you can't see. So Matthew is an average child. So children can see that someone is blind, however, he's like me. So there's no big difference. So I think that, for example, teachers, that's why I talked about this database, because for teachers it would be very good sometimes to show a film like this and tell that, have you ever thought that your friend who is a little bit disabled or sits in a wheelchair, but however he's a very nice guy, and it would be nice to play with him, for example. And I also would like to mention that not only the Canadian Film Board has this database, but also the British Council. So the next film is from the British Council's database, Disability in Film. So the Handsome is also one of them, and they have a huge database about the subject.
And I'm also curious, because now that you've explained to us why you chose this film and what kind of perspectives it highlights, I'm interested of the philosophical aspect of this, because we were talking, as you said in the introduction, Henrik, you were looking at different conditions that are that either create a form of breakage of. Yeah, you understand.
Yeah, I mean, I think Esther said it beautifully, because it's really two things that we are trying to say at the same time, and they are not contradictions. The one is that by being different, you are different, and that's fine. We need a society where we acknowledge difference, and where difference is not the basis of violence, where we embrace each other's difference and see that as a resource. And at the same time, we are saying, you are just like the others, because you have the exact same human dignity. And you have many of the same things that I have. We can recognize things in each other through diversity. And I think embracing both of those at the same time, well, I'm saying this also as a father and as an uncle of disabled children, that I see every day that there is such a need to feel that you belong in this society. I'll quote something in Norwegian because it's my favorite National Day song, where we sing, "Vi en nasjon, vi med, vi små den allen lange." We are also a nation. We who are very small belong to and have this nation just as much as the rest of you. And to me, that is a wonderful example of exactly what we're talking about. But sometimes finding that balance can be difficult, because sometimes we can emphasize diversity so much, so the other becomes only the other. Oh, you are the other. I was asked not too long ago to come and give a talk at a Parkinson's society for those who have Parkinson's disease and their next of kin. And I asked them, what do you want me to talk to about? We'll talk about this thing of having a chronic illness, living with Parkinson. And I never forget the answer was, oh, please, can't you talk about something else? Because we talk about Parkinson all the time, which is good, because that's what we're there to support each other for. But we are much more than that. And if you end up like the guy with Parkinson, you're defined as only that. And I think that's a wonderful thing about this movie. We realized first when we see the movie that Matthew is a kid. And he's a pretty regular kid. Then you realize that then he has a special ability because of his disability. So I think that ought to be well, let me put it that way, so I'm a philosopher, philosophical grounding. And it's grounded, and that's the last thing I'll say, in one of my favorite terms, which comes from the very first line of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, inherent dignity. Dignity is inherent to you, not because of how you look or where you're from or what you've done, but because you are a human being.
Thank you, Henrik. And I think you said it so beautifully. He has an ability because he has a disability. And that takes me to you, Pentalis. Can you hear us? Yes. I'm very curious to hear a little bit about how you work with your festival in Greece. And if you can maybe put in some of the aspects in terms of having a disability and how you can also lift the importance of dignity in the work that you do?
I have to mention that from the beginning of our festival back in 1997, when Dimitris Spirou started the festival, one of the main things was to show things, to show stories of people that are not privileged in a way. Taking into account that there is what Farida earlier talked about the stigma of disability. Taking into account that our societies tend to have this kind of stigma, which we tend to also to overcome lately, but it's not the rule exactly. As a festival, we have always tried to have a program that would include all this kind of all different kind of stories. I have to say that film as an art form is all about empathy. The idea of putting yourself into the position of a spectator, if you allow me being a little bit philosophical, is already the beginning of a journey into the world of someone else. And this world, we tend to say that it's the world of the hero, but actually it's the world of the filmmaker, because a film is a structured work of art. So there's a dynamic relationship there, which is based mainly on the scope, on what the filmmaker has been thinking about the film. But at the same time, this is a dynamic relationship that includes the filmmaker and the spectator and the audience. So from it's not philosophical, from a more poetic point of view, there's a metaphor. We could say that the film, the spectator is a sibling to the filmmaker in a way. So the film is the mother somehow, is the medium through which we connect, and this is how we have been working with our festival for a very, very long time in terms of film selection. So we have all kinds of those films that would be included in disability databases from all through the years. One extra thing that we're trying to do also is to be inclusive in all layers of our activity, on screen and off screen also. This is also something that has to do with how we are not only what kind of films that we screen, but also what other kind of activities we do have. I have a very small example, which I'm not going to talk much about. This year, for example, we had one of our workshops was organized in a music school in Athens, where blind and visually impaired and not visually impaired children work together. So we worked with them to make a documentary about their experience, which is a very nice documentary that I suppose I have to send you at some point. And this is a part of our. I mean, we need to see also this part of the issue, how we get to not only to represent things on film and on screen, but also in our daily activities. Yeah, I don't know if I have already answered to your question, but overall, I think we need to explain the difference, like in Private Eyes, which is a very nice film, but also we need to be able to express it, and this is something that may be done by the filmmaker, or may be done by, let's say, an ecosystem of people working around film and helping the production of films that take into account these issues, etc. I don't want to spend too much of your time, so I'll stop here, and I'm available for the rest of the conversation.
Thank you so much, and I think that takes us very nicely to you, Julia, because you also work with film. Oh, sorry, to Hilde. Sorry, to Hilde, because you also work with film, and you dive into the relationship between the filmmaker and the content of what the film is. And I was wondering if you could give us a little bit of insight of how you work and what you've found from this way of working.
Yes, I'll give it another go. We do a lot about the recruiting to this program, the talent. We have these different film talents and different programs. We kind of take them through, and of course, we think about the diversity, the equality between the sexes, everything, the minorities and everything, and we think a lot about it, and we do, like Farida and Abloom also, they act on it as well. And I just have to say that the goal is, of course, that we don't have to think about it at all when we recruit, but until then, we think about it all the time, and it's mainly with the recruiting, because we want the programs to be a mirror of the population and the society, and it's yes. So we have different kind of programs with young filmmakers that we try as good as we can to do something about the diversity in the society. Yes.
Thank you, Ida. And that also kind of shows the aspects of one day we'll get to a point where we don't have to think about it because it becomes a part of the norm. And I think that maybe we can see a comparison into gender representation on film, because that's actually something that we have been counting for a long time. And Julia, maybe you could give us a little bit of insight of how you've worked when you've had this diversity report that was also introduced in 2020?
Yeah, 2019 actually.
2019.
Most of the these things were implemented, and I think it's very, very important that we make aware. I think everything starts with that. Of course, we have to have some do something as well, but what we have started with is what we have called the relevance test, which is actually, does this film feel relevant for whom does this film feel relevant? And just in doing that, it's basically some criteria that the filmmakers basically are answering some kind of questions to make them aware themselves if they are responsible, to make them responsible for looking at a more diverse society. And this kind of self-report will make a lot more awareness. And we have heard that a lot of producers tells us that they haven't really been thinking about it. It's been so easy to just use the same actors as they have done before. But we can see slowly that there is a bit more diversity in films. Just some days ago, I was at the opening of the Werewolf. It's called the Viking Werewolf, actually. And one of the siblings there was actually not hearing. And I think probably it's just because we have this self-awareness scheme that makes the filmmakers aware that, okay, it doesn't matter, we can just add a person, which is basically making the film more almost said normal, because it's what is in the everyday lives, that some people have siblings that are disabled in some kind of ways. So that's one of the, and we also have as I said, we have a lot of different schemes to support films and festivals and so on, and we have diversity as a priority criterion. So it's of course there are a lot of different criteria in the support schemes, but diversity has been is growing as something that we weight very much. So of course a project isn't diverse in itself, so it needs to be looked upon in connection with others, basically self-awareness, and as well as this diversity criterion is where we can put most weight, I'd say.
And this also shows how much power we find within institutions, because maybe I would say the past 2 years or so, there's been more talk about diversity within the cultural sector, and also the Department of Culture also implemented criteria connected to diversity. And there was a debate on how does this affect freedom of expression, how does this affect artists and so forth. And I would say maybe that one of the conclusions that came out of that, and that we're still with right now, is the level of awareness and the fact that it's something that you would have to consider when you're doing your work, and then you make a conscious choice if you choose not to do something that affects the level of diversity. Because at the end of the day, we do know that diversity is not one person. Diversity is the constellation of a lot of different people and a lot of different perspectives, and we need to keep on carrying that responsibility of, reflecting society. Hilda, and then Esther.
Yes, I'm sorry. And also, I will add, it's more fun to have diversity in our program, and to think about it, and to lift the perspective, and to get the new stories told. It's and it brings more joy into life.
Just finally, I would like to talk about the next film a little bit, because we couldn't invite the filmmaker here. He couldn't come, Luke White, who is director of the next film. But I asked him to send a statement about diversity, how what he thinks about diversity. Of course, it's his film where he's telling it, but he also sent a message, and a part of the message is the word normal has already been discussed by you. Normal is what we make it. So if we can educate by being transparent and have more informative content out of the public sphere about all kinds of disabilities, then we can overcome the stigmas and accept people of all abilities as normal.
That's beautiful.
His words. That is Luke White, the director of the next film that is entitled Handsome.
Thank you. And I will give the microphone to Henrik, and then I will add on that.
I'll be very brief towards the end here. What we are talking about is what they call in gender studies mainstreaming, namely that something becomes part of how you think. And that's a responsibility that we all have. And we must never get tired of saying these things. I remember my father was a politician, and he used to say that it's when you get tired of saying something yourself that it starts seeping in out there. So those of us who care about these issues must never get tired of talking about, as you said, until it's no issue at all, it's an issue all the time. But we're not doing that because we want to be angry. We are doing it because of the love we have for inclusion. And we're also not doing it because we think the others are evil. I mean, that's something you're so good at, Frida, because you talk about the issue that some see disabilities as punishment. But you're not saying that the people who believe that are evil. They are ignorant and need to be taught. But they also love their children. And to actually remind people that this is right here as an opportunity for love and care, not as something that's difficult or bad, but something that's good. And I think that must be our point of departure, and we can get a long way, and Abloom is contributing wonderfully to that. So I'm really proud to be part of this day. Thank you.
And I think that goes very well into the idea of having norm-critical perspectives. And I remember the first time I heard about the social mobility ideology, that completely, for me at least, hit home. Because you might think of mobility and the structures of society, and then you look at differently abled and see as them as being the issue or of the problem. But in fact, it's the structures that we've built and the ideas that we have around them that make something more normative than not. And I think I would like to invite Farida now to join us for the last part of the session, so that we also get your perspectives. Because the topic is siblings' perspectives. And I was wondering if you could give us a little bit of background to why this is this year's theme.
Yes. First of all, most disabled people, many people think of them as only them in the family. We all forget that these children who are disabled do have siblings. And most of the time, the siblings are not in focus. We have heard stories where siblings are not able to talk about the disability of their brother or sister. It's a shame. There are taboos in the family. So they are encouraged to shut up and never talk about it to anybody out there. And these children are suffering. These children are among us. These children need to be heard. So we decided we must do something about this. Some of the siblings have come forward and told us their stories, and their stories were not very nice. Most of them were ignored. Others felt unloved, and so on. And that was sad. They are going over this with depression. They are the ones that aren't seen and they end up in trouble. It's because of their sitting with so much on their heart. They never get to tell anybody. So we decided to do something about this. And we are very happy that we have lifted this group up so that everybody can see it, so that everybody can wake up and say, you know what? I usually meet that family for years, but I never asked, do they have a brother or a sister? How is that brother? Is he okay? Is she okay? Is she performing well in school? And if not, what's wrong? What can we do? So, this is a message. Simply as that.
Thank you, and that we can also see that in the film Private Eyes, because you see Matthew's relationship to his parents, to his teacher, to his friends, and how he has such big dreams, and how he is so curious as to what his surprise is. And I think, you know, when it comes to siblings, you may have the taboo of not being able to talk about it, but you also have that immense love, or you can have that immense love for your sibling and the challenges that they meet in society, because you carry some of that fight with you. And I think that maybe we can also, yes, Henrik?
I just have to say, wonderful to have Greece with us too, by the way. That today, I know this sounds trivial to many of you, but Jack Grealish scored a goal for the English soccer team. He has a sister with cerebral palsy, and he always brings her to games. And he always shows how proud he is of her. And that means a lot, because he's a huge star. Everyone in Manchester knows who he is. The kids want to be like him. And he shows his sister and says, she is my hero. And that's just an example of the sorts of things where we take away taboos by talking about. So I just had to say that since we're talking about siblings. Sorry about that.
No, but it's true, and it's so right. And I think also, like Esther said, that the younger you are exposed to the fact that we are a constellation of many different qualities, and that's okay, then it's easier also to navigate life in that way, and you meet each other with openness and curiosity, and you can ask, how is family, how is everything okay? And I think, Pentalis, maybe we could hear a little bit about how you have worked in terms of the film festival, and how you, I would like to know a little bit of what you're doing this year.
Yes, one of the things that we're trying to do, actually we have to take into account let's say the level of mainstreaming that has already happened in a society. And I have to say that the situation in Greek society regarding disabilities and disabled people is not at the level that we would wish it to be. But there are, you need to have actors, like Henrik very well said, because as long as you don't get bored yourself, it's true that there is still work to do. Regarding the festival, first of all, we include lots of films that are in our programs that are related to disabilities, especially in our documentary program, where we have many good examples. We always have good examples of documentaries related to this, I would say, this point of view that's kind of similar to what you're going to watch now, Handsome, but based mostly on, actually we're trying to select films that are meant also for children audiences. So it's, in some cases, it's a little bit different to what you're going to watch, but we have lots of films that are meant for that, to raise awareness actually about disabilities. This is one thing. The other thing is that we are trying to be part of the game in a way. You cannot do it with everything, but you can do it even in some cases in symbolic ways. And so I'm going to mention that the opening event of our documentary competition this year is going to be exactly something like that, like a very inclusive event where we're going to have the screening of the film, of the workshop film that I mentioned earlier, plus another documentary, and at the same time we're going to have SDH subtitles for deaf people and audio description for blind people, and sign language for all the discussion sessions. You have to keep in mind that from a festival point of view, this is the fact that you need to be inclusive also creates lots of production issues. It costs actually to be inclusive in all levels, and actually we need, in some cases, we have to stop before the point that we would be happy with. But I think this is also something that we have to take into account as we're planning, and also people who are funding and also who are making decisions on funding, and also take into account the extra cost of this inclusion entails. And our goal is to be able to include all kinds of diverse subjects. The easy way to do it is to screen films. The hard way to do it is also to discuss about it. It's not always very easy. But I think that overall, and also judging from my position as a member of the board of the European Children Film Association, because I am now a member of the board of LECFA, I have to say that this is a very active discussion all around the Children Film Festival and the children film community in Europe in general. We're trying to find solutions wherever we can. Obviously, we cannot do everything, but at the same time, I think that all ECFA members at this point are trying to open, if they haven't done it already, are trying to open up the discussion on how you can include all people. On the other hand, film is diverse. Diversity has always been there. It's not exactly that we need to reinvent ourselves to say that we are diverse. We are working with films, and films are diverse. And a film festival is by default diverse because it includes stories by people. So this is something that we always have in Olympia Festival, and I think I'm also talking here on behalf of the whole Children Film Festival community.
Thank you. I saw that there was a wink and a glint in your eye when you said that film is diverse. And I think that rounds us up. So I would like for every one of you to say one thing that you would like everyone in this room and those that are following at home or in your offices to take with them from this particular event and from the topic that we've been exploring today. And also, Yeah. And then I thought we will open up for 2 questions.
I would like everyone here and out there to remember that what would the world be without diversity? Who will we be? I would say one word: we would not be a great human race without diversity. Diversity enriches us. We become more wise and we become better humans. That's all.
It's very difficult to be a bureaucrat and have said being able to level with you, Farida, but I can say that I totally agree with you. And I think also it's a nice step, an important step to go from talking about inclusion to diversity, because I think diversity is more correct. I'm not sure if I make myself clear, but when we talk about inclusion, it's like someone already decided what's the best place to be, and then we can look if we can include the others. But I think diversity is more fair, and I think it's the right way to go, and talking about diversity is inclusion for everyone.
Thank you.
I guess I'd just like to add a word that was used by one of you earlier, empathy. I think films are a wonderful way to explore empathy. But as you said, it's not really just the film, it's us as spectators. What do we take from it? We are participants. We're not just passive onlookers. So we have to challenge ourselves, what do we take from this, and how can we learn about empathy and about diversity and about human dignity?
It's very difficult. I totally agree with you all, and I think also diversity. If we include diversity in telling stories and do it in films, and yes.
Pentalis.
I think all metaphors are going to be politically incorrect, but we need to open up our eyes and our ears and use our senses and use our minds and our hearts and the way that we communicate with the world to bring in this. I don't know if it's a global feeling, but it's about being part of humanity in a way. Film is a good way to do it. Obviously, it's not the only way to do it, and the film isn't politics. So it's not only about representation within films or whatever. It's about being able to change our lives and our societies through our daily battle. I think this is it.
Thank you. Esther?
Yeah, I would say it's inclusion, the word. Include everybody, and in film, the most important is to raise empathy, as you took my word, matter of fact, because we all are born with empathy. I have just seen a study that all small children have empathy. Someone is crying, they also cry. So it's a very human feeling. Why do we lose it during the years, this feeling? So we should not. So I think this is something that film should emphasize.
Thank you, Esther. And I think in summary, what has been explored is the fact that there is a correlation between the structural, between family units, between power, and not least also between love and empathy. And I think also, as a last sentence, I would like to highlight is learning. The fact that we are exchanging our knowledges and competence, because I don't know if you guys agree, but sometimes I find us finding more knowledge, or someone's taking risks outside of the borders of Norway, and we can learn from each other. And we see that in Greece, we see that also in collaboration with the Canadian Embassy, and we see that we need to exchange competence on how to do this in a good way. And I will use 2 of the last minutes to ask if there are any questions or any comments from the audience. Please, let me give. Please tell us also who you are.
It's not even a question, but it's first of all to thank you, all of you, to thank Farida that you are doing an amazing work with open heart and mind. So this is very important. But referring to you with the same quality hair color, I would like to say and to stress what you just said, the importance of the awareness of the disabled, the other. In fact, in Portugal, we call it the exceptional other, because they do it everything sometimes with taking more time and more effort, but they can do. The importance of, from the beginning, the child, the young child can start dealing with these topics. And my son, my eldest son, went to a kindergarten called The Hare and the Turtle, because of the La Fontaine fable, precisely for that, where they mixed normal children with exceptional children. And the truth is that he's now an adult, and he still has the same friends from that time with different lives, but with a profound respect for their rights, their human rights. And when we are talking about human rights of the children, we are not talking about mini human rights, because they are children. They have human rights like all of us. So this is very important from the beginning. And to use films or other productions in Portugal, for instance, you know that soaps are very popular. I mean, in all Latin America, but also in Portugal, the kind of soap that everybody sees, I mean, a vast majority of people sees, because it's normally during dinner, after end of the day, dinner time. And the last, I would say, 50 or 60% of the soaps include the topic and the actors in what we need, what we want to see as the normality. This is part of our lives. This is part of all of us. We always have someone, or in the family or friends. It's not a taboo, shouldn't be a taboo anymore. And when looking at my sons, I see that they have already another perspective of what we in our generation wanted to do in terms of inclusion and in terms of diversity. But what you are doing, because we embassies and ambassadors, we are bureaucrats, sometimes more happy to be involved in this kind of things of the real life, less a little bit far from what we do in a normal day. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Yeah. Please, your name.
Yeah, my name is Knut. I'm pretty sure I'm the youngest here, and I'm here for the youth. And I have a question to all of you, a simple one. We see that many people with disabilities feel it as a taboo in the school. We talk about inclusion, and all here are adults, bureaucrats, ambassadors. It's pretty fancy, but what are we doing in the schools to hinder that? I don't see, I do a lot of school politics myself, I don't see the inclusion here, and I hope we need to do it, so we need to do it. It's normal, we all are different. It's normal to have some sort of other thing about that's you. So what are we doing it? I'm trying to formulate it myself here without using Norwegian, but what are we doing here to normalize it in the school, for example? Reach out to the youth, because everybody here is adults and most likely already knows that and respects them, but many people here, many children are not here, and so words and so words.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Knut, for addressing the young. Abloom Film Festival is, first of all, for young and the youth. The film festival began yesterday, and guess who was the first audience? They were the young and the youth. Both yesterday and all of today, before you guys arrived, we have been educating young and the youth. So we are trying to do our best to get as many as we can. And on top of that, we have our first, what do they call, award. And this award has a jury. Children is jury. And those children are disabled. So on the Friday, the 25th, we will be in Saga Cinema giving out the very first prize, Children's Prize, together with the culture minister, that the jury, of course, that consists of children who are disabled. So we are doing a lot, and there will be around 500 children. But altogether, the film festival is collecting thousands of children, because the film festival has 6 days, and 4 of the 6 days are dedicated to children and youngsters.
Thank you, Knut. I'll just say very briefly what I think we can do more of, and I hope you agree. Namely, that school leaders need to be much more aware of this in everyday life. Some are, and there are some fantastic deans and teachers out there. But I think often you think of this in terms of something special for someone else. So these are the disabled classes. And when the school does something together, they feel that they're on the outside. But of course they're not. The way in which you do common things together. That's the one thing. The other is use the facilities that are there. We have much better facilities these days for those who are hard of hearing, those who cannot see that well, but do we actually use them actively? Do we remind the teachers? You have to use this. You have to take this microphone on so everyone can hear. It turns out that is often lacking, unfortunately. And finally, with the theme of this year's Abloom, think about the siblings and how they can have pride in their brothers and sisters by doing things together in school. And once again, I think it's a great responsibility for school leaders to be aware of that. But thanks for asking that question, because it's something we have to work on every day. And you can make a difference as well, so thank you. Thank you.
That's a great question. Thank you, Knut. And we have come to a close for this conversation. I'm going to take your last words, Henrik, to do common things together, to explore and witness the world together, and to acknowledge that we can be differently abled in every shape and form, and that's a part of the humanity that we are all a part of. Thank you. And while we sit here, I think I can introduce the next part of the program. I will start by saying that the official part is now come to a close, but we still have another film to watch, and that is Handsome.
A good one.
A good one, yes, and that is, where did I write it? Handsome, sorry, by Luke White. So please stay for that. And I think also we should take this opportunity to nudge one another, talk to each other, and learn from each other. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. To navigate relations and cultivate relational competence is a key we use in all aspects of our lives, both professionally and personally. The stories we explore through film add to the journey of understanding. Embracing representation in film with just access to all to tell their stories, to show their stories, strengthen our connectivity. We must identify barriers that exclude and dehumanize, and we must break them, and we must shatter shame, stigma, and taboos, as we all are simply wired for connection. Abloom does this for children and youth with special needs, keeping in mind the intersectional perspective of minorities, this time raising the views of siblings, their challenges, their love, and also their need for connection. Thank you to everyone that are following us online. Thank you to everyone that are here at the Munch Museum. Thank you to the head partner, the Embassy of Canada to Norway, Ambassador Kent, thank you for your time. To the Abloom crew and to all the volunteers, to the Norwegian Film Institute, to Budfeed, to Oslo municipality, to free speech, freedom of speech, Fritt Ord, and to the Department of Culture and Cultural Ministry. On the 25th of this month, in 3 days, is the annual conference. Please stay tuned for that. And not least, for the first Children's Award ceremony by Abloom. Thank you for now.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Amanda.